We're going to jump into the foreclosure bailout right away because I believe that this is going to be, the most lucrative opportunity coming in the market. Now, I want to also first say that, I'm not a fan of the foreclosure bailout by any means. I think there's other opportunities, to help people. But on certain situations like DSCR loans, any non-QM loan that was done in prior years, is not being modified. And that's where I think people are going to really get themselves into harm way because it is a commercial loan, right? When you have a residential mortgage, Fannie, Freddie, FHA, VA, the government provides insurance, mortgage insurance in the event of a default in order to help the homeowner keep their property. So last week I had a friend call me up. They're about a year down on their mortgage, and I think PennyMac was the loan servicer, and there was an actual sale date set for their property, for their primary residence where they live with their kids. So they called me up like, Jeff, hey, yeah, I know you know a little bit about what's going on, but now there's a sale date, like things are getting real, we can't catch up. I'm like, look, I got you. Like, let's just get the servicer on the line. I call them up and I spoke on their behalf. And without asking them for piece of income documentation, credit pull, anything, I was able to get them a 36-month modification, no payment due until June, and the payment's going to be reduced by $500 a month. And there's probably like 40 or $50,000 of equity left in the property, right? And they have an FHA mortgage. What we're seeing on the DSCR side and even on the commercial loan side is, there aren't workouts being done. The lenders are targeting their default rates. So who really qualifies for foreclosure bailouts, in my opinion? People that have multiple properties that are in foreclosure, and rather than fire selling properties, we're seeing a lot of partnership buyouts where foreclosure is taking place, where like in this instance in front of you, yeah, unfortunately, this borrower raised money from somebody, didn't pay him back in time. So the partner stepped in and he's collecting all the rents monthly. I think the rents come out to almost 40,000 a month, give or take. And the credit is in the other borrower's name who has no money in the deal. And this guy's just sitting here, while his properties are fully leased up, and unable to collect his own rent because he never paid back the guy that he borrowed the money from to acquire them in the first place. So like this is a perfect example of a deal that can get done from a foreclosure bailout. These are all four investment properties. And I wanted to show you how I personally structure foreclosure bailouts. And this is high level. So he did give us appraisals. I don't know how accurate they are, but I'm taking them at face value. So I always put the appraised value in the first column, followed by the maximum loan to value, which is 65%. It's oftentimes 60%, again, depending on how severely delinquent somebody is and what the assets are. I put the loan payoff in. The loan payoff obviously is inclusive of the delinquent or arrears, how much rents the properties are generating in real time, taxes, the insurance. I calculate the net operating income, and then I value each asset based on a cap rate, not on a market comparable sale. So even though it appraised at a certain number, I want to know from an investment standpoint, what type of cash it's kicking off. So these are pretty good numbers, right? Anything over 7.5, 8, even 9%, people are likely to purchase, in certain areas and have additional, hopefully, equity where regardless of market conditions, the cash flow on the property can cover the debt payment. So then if you drop down, I put together as one loan package, right? So I did it individually as each four. So in that way, somebody might want one or two of them, not all four. Let's say somebody wants, a minimum $2 million loan. They would obviously like it better as let's have all four. So we have the total loan payoff here. We put in a 7-month interest reserve where they're always going to be 7 months ahead. Put the rate at 12%. The reason why I put the rate at 12% was in order to be able to actually positively cash flow the debt. So 1% per month comes out to 25,000 a month. If they're collecting rents, less all expenses, let's say at 27,000 a month, I want them to have a little dollars to make to themselves, right? You don't want to be collecting all these rents and not, seeing anything after you're in foreclosure for this amount of time frame. So that's how I structured this particular opportunity. We're close in negotiating with one of our lenders that offers these. He thinks the loan amount's too high, and I kind of agree with him. But my argument is that he's going to be collecting rents, well, payments directly day one. We'll have a assignment of rent put into obviously the legal documents, where in the event that he doesn't pay the rent, we could step in and actually collect it directly from the tenants. And then going back up here again, we built in an extra 180,000, $180 interest reserve where even if he doesn't pay for 6 months, he's borrowing money in order to cover that. But the way I structured this again is, day one, month one, you're going to be collecting your interest. So you're always going to have that additional 7% buffer. So now again, another broker sent me this deal. So I put it in as, 12% to the lender, 2 points to the lender, 2 points to us. We split with that one with the broker. So hopefully we make 25,000, they make 25,000, and then the lender makes their money. There is obviously a lot of risk in here. And I think that again, the more you bring these delinquent loan opportunities to the table, the more we can structure them accordingly, or at least provide some immediate relief. Yes, we want to make $25,000 on a deal, but we don't want to have happen is make $25,000 on a deal, have the deal go bad, and then not be able to do more of these loans, right? Like that's where the bigger picture comes in. Also, what people want to focus on is okay, so we give this guy 2.574 million. He's in foreclosure on 4 properties. How are we getting paid off? So, like in this particular case, I would have all properties deeded into one LLC, where that LLC owns all 4 of these entities. And then in 6 months or 9 months, once a new payment history is established, deed the ownership or the shares to a person that doesn't have active foreclosures on their record or prior foreclosures on their record. As long as they own more than 80% of the entity, they can then come in, refinance with a DSCR loan or a commercial blanket bridge loan, and get our lender paid off, paid out of the way. Right. So like being able to navigate that full cycle of, okay, if we get you in, how are we going to get you out? And knowing that day one is obviously critical. People are right now more worried about their return of capital than they are about their return on capital. So this was a scenario, like I said, I worked on. Now I know Joe has a scenario he wants to go over, so I'm going to stop my screen share. I'm going to allow Joe to share his screen. That way we can go over it together in real time. And I want you guys to be able to realize, like, and obviously this is what LoanLynx is being trained to be, but like how my brain works. And if you guys know the questions to ask, right? Now, obviously, don't forget Eric's on this call as well. Okay, so this client has mortgage lates, car lates, all lates. Once we get this borrower in our ecosystem, how do we best help them get to the next level? Get them to Eric, get those mortgage lates, removed, deleted, and have Eric, go to town and do his job accordingly. So I think bringing the full team together on tricky, special situations like this is going to be not only critical for your success, but it's going to come back to you in different ways. And if you make a name for yourself in your marketplace as the person who knows how to help people out, you're going to get more calls than what you need. So, Joe, I'm all yours.
Yeah, so I don't have as much information as you, Jeff. Obviously, I just did a quick calculation. Uh, this number represents 60% LTV, so this would be like I guess your max loan amount, 631, 800, based off the property values, and this is your current loan balance. So we're a little bit current loan balance is over that 60% threshold right now.
So the current market value of these 5 properties is $1 million.
Yeah, let me put
I
that.
don't think that added properly.
No, I wasn't trying to add.
Oh, got it.
I was trying, this number right here represents
Yeah,
60%
got
of
it.
total market values. This is the total market value.
Got it. So just make another column below that. So just add that up, that leave that million there, remove that 631, 800, and then take that million, multiply it by 60%. So like in this case, do you have the current rates on all? Who are the lender? I know it says current lender superior loan. That's SLS. That's obviously the servicer. Do you know what types of loans these were originally?
Yeah, he definitely was in a bridge loan. He was not in DSCR from what I
Is
believe.
that Rock? Superior. I don't know. Don't they own Superior?
Probably, yeah. I don't know who the original is.
Yeah, so and then do you know what his current rates are? So like what I always say is like the more the merrier. So if we can go in and find out what the current payoffs look like. One of our strategies is I go, usually with one of my attorneys on the line just for the initial call and try and negotiate down the default interest. Not that it works by any means every time. My current stance on that is lenders need their capital back, right? The guys that have endless money, they don't care. They just let their default rate accrue. But these institutional guys, like the more loans they have delinquent, the bigger problems they have in deploying new capital and also bonding capital that they're planning on funding. So most people in this space lend, let's say, $100 million at a 12% rate. Well, they're taking on leverage up to 90% of that, which means if they lend 100 million, they get reimbursed 90 million of that at like a 5% or 6% rate to make that arbitrage. It's called leverage finance. So when certain loans stop performing, they then have to kick additional capital in, right? So if a lender's like, hey, I got to kick in another $300,000, for example, on this pool right here, it's about where it would be, give or take, my assumption. They want to just get these loans off their books. So they don't have to kick in good, fresh capital, right? At bad capital. So that's where like getting updated payoff and seeing what that looks like from a legal fee standpoint, from a default interest standpoint, from a current interest rate standpoint. So when you see a payoff in these types of loans, it'll say like current interest 10%, default interest 12%, to total a 22% rate. And then what we also want to find out was what was the original loan amount day the loan was taken out. Let's say it was $200,000, because in that way, if the borrower now owes $218,000, we can go in and try to negotiate a payoff. Like, look, you gave them 200, didn't work out, things happen, reduce the payoff to $200,000. So when we get all of our updated payoffs in writing, we usually get an LOI from a lender or capital source first, right? Don't show anybody that. Go to the lender and negotiate the rock bottom payoff, and then hopefully figure out that both sides don't know what those numbers come back at, right? Because if the lender knows we're giving somebody 250,000 and helping them out, rolling in closing costs, they're like, well, why are we taking a haircut of $18,000? So when we go and provide an LOI to the lender that we're asking for the discount from, we say, hey, listen, we can only lend $200,000 here. Give us a payoff for $200,000, and we're going to close by April 23rd, right? So like part of that strategy is hyper focused, and that's where we're seeing the most success is giving somebody a term sheet with an expected closing date within a 2-week window, and a lot of them are biting on that. So Joe, on here, are these properties all rented out?
3 out of 5.
Got it. And then do you know what market rents are on these?
Yeah, he has them right here. So
And which one, if you just highlight in green, which ones are currently rented?
he's told me two. He told me only 3 of them were, but he put rent in each one, and he put current rent. So now I'm
This
confused.
is the problem with most people, right? Is like, you can never get to the truth of it, and you have somebody that's operating most likely out of desperation or fear or greed at some point. So like this is why on most of these deals, like unless they're bigger deals where I see a path to profitability, I'm like, look, I could try and help you, but if you have 5 loans I have to review, I'm charging 475 per loan for my due diligence because right now you're losing X amount of dollars per month, right? I'm going to give you my analysis and my feedback and give you an actual structure on how to help get yourself out of the situation. Or I could try and help you out of the situation, but I need all the facts. And I just had I went against twice recently. I went against my gut on deals, and both of those deals are causing me extreme discomfort internally. I spent the last 45 days working on deals for a borrower that I don't think he could even tell the truth if you looked at his birth certificate and what his name was. And even back, he scheduled the closing knowing he didn't have the funds to close because he never told me he didn't pay the taxes on a property. And we wired the capital. It was like a $660,000 deal. And he scheduled the closing, and basically at the closing table was like, "Oh, hey, yeah, just increase the loan amount to $680,000." I'm like, "Dude, we met you 45 days ago. We said the maximum loan amount is 660. You were getting cash out. You purposely didn't tell us, right, that you didn't pay the taxes. And at the closing table, knowing the HUD said you needed to bring $19,000, like we're just supposed to increase the loan amount by $20,000 because you decided to be a liar, right? Like we don't operate that way, And he gave us a personal financial statement that showed he had $150,000 in the bank. He's like, I don't have 5 grand right now. So I would encourage all of you to be like very conscious and respectful of your time while we want to help people. Like we have a business to run, and this is not a charity. If it's your mother or a close friend, you want to help somebody, run it like that and write it off as charitable work. These people are losing a lot. And if you're the professional that you are or think you are, you deserve that same type of professional courtesy, and you deserve to get paid for your work.
Agreed.
So Joe, those five, we don't know if those five are rented or not rented.
Yeah, so I got this 2 days ago. I should have looked at it more, but based on my conversation with him, he told me 3 out of 5 were rented, and two he's still doing work on right now. He's
Mhm.
currently doing renovation, so I know that this is not correct what he sent me.
And that's the thing too, right? Is like, I want, as you know, guys know, I want to help everybody, but like, if I'm stopping everything that I'm doing to review people's loan scenarios and loan requests, only to find out that they're not accurate, like now I'm just completely behind the eight ball, like I'm building what I believe to be $100 million+ company with LoanLynx, and I want to be there for everybody to help everybody get closings, get paid, and be the hero in your marketplace. And the reality is that people just aren't asking the right questions and doing the upfront due diligence. And whether it's not taking control over the client or taking control over the deal or not knowing what the appropriate questions are to ask, that's why I do these calls so everybody could be better, right? Like if I get hit by a bus one day, God forbid, like I still need everybody to succeed, and I want to be that person where people can come to and get the truth. And I'm able to close deals based on asking the tough questions up front and taking a complete application up front, right? And then, yeah, there's always that verification required on the back end. But hopefully, what you guys learn on these calls, like streamline your process and help you guys not waste your time, because I shouldn't be valuing any of your guys' time, more than you guys value your time. And I don't expect everybody to know everything, but like things like that. I have this one deal that's been lingering now. It's $22 million. It's going on now 14 months. I think I mentioned this to you guys. I charged the fee that I was expecting it to close in 45 days, only to find out that there was $2 million of unsecured debt no one told me about. The one piece of land wasn't subdivided when I was told it was subdivided, right? And it's been an absolute nightmare where I just got 12 new bank statements that I have to go through before submitting it to our lender for an updated term sheet, only to hear, the builder and the referral source, bitch and moan about why the deal's not closed yet. I'm like, well, because you lied to me. And whether you did it on purpose or you did it because you don't know what you're doing, either way, you presented me a fact, and when I opened the fact, it turned out that there were no facts, right? So that's just unfortunate reality of where we're at in the market. That's why it's so critical to like keep learning, and like your antlers should go off every time a new opportunity arises. Like, is this person lying to me? It's the first question I always ask myself. And B, if they're telling me these facts, prove it, right? Because if you're telling me you're collecting rent, you either have Zelle, Venmo, a text message saying, "Hey, I'm coming to pick up the rent," a rent receipt, or a bank statement showing the deposit. Like little things like that. So again, on like deals like this, you like if there are two still under construction, the other thing would be like you got to ask which two under construction and what are the remaining itemized construction budgets to get those projects to completion. So if I'm looking at this scenario right now, assuming the client's a human and a good person, which TBD, I don't know them, I would actually separate the three rented properties and do that as one bundle foreclosure bailout. And then the other two that still need construction, probably shit out of luck, unfortunately. But the reality is like, is there a way to get it done? Possibly. Maybe he sells them to a friend who's a developer or fix and flipper or investor, and then we come in, we do it as a purchase, and we finance 100% of the construction, right? Again, something along those lines in order to get him out of harm's way. But this is where the market takes like full creativity and like experience wins, right? Like you would never want to bundle three properties that are fully rented, stabilized with two properties that have human risk, construction risk, and additional default risk with the assumption that they have no money, right? Now, if they have money in the bank, yeah, maybe we can like construct it differently. On something like this, it's probably like let me be the bad cop. I don't have a problem being the bad cop. Like get on a call, me, you, and the client. I'll go over the process with them. I'll lay out the guidelines. I'll lay out, how I would attack this, and I'll collect the fee, and hopefully we'll be able to split that fee, right, or something along those lines, regardless whether the deal closes or not. That's what I have for today. I want to start keeping these short, like 15, 20 minutes. I'm gonna, open this up to questions now. It's all you guys.
That was great. That was helpful for sure. Um,
You're going to be seeing a lot of these. I want you to know that. Like these are all over the market, especially in like the higher markets, like that have been delaying.
Oh yeah.
Um,
yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
they're
You're
here.
telling me
They're here.
they're just here now, especially. with the DSCR, like Jeff was saying, they're now like a lot of them I know did not like because lenders are so desperate to do these things, so they're overlooking a lot of basic requirements. Guys who have shit credit or don't have a pot to piss in or doing DSCR loans with no leases, a lot of these are going to start coming back. So if we can line up more of these types of foreclosure bailout type lenders, I think it's going to be good, a great opportunity for us to make some cash that way.
Yeah, and the thing is, like, you don't have to be special or talented. You literally make a post like, now advising, now helping borrowers in default, right? Now helping people out of foreclosure. Done. I know every realtor knows someone that's behind on their mortgage right now. You want to get in with the realtor? Go tell them you'll help if they have any past clients that are struggling financially, right? Hey, I'm here to help you because you are. Like, don't take that lightly. Like, I take the approach of how can I help this person, but how can I also protect my time, right? I know how much my time is worth to me. And if I'm helping somebody out of foreclosure, like, I have enough karma. Like, when I die one day, I'm walking right into heaven. The gates are already open for me. But I also want to be conscious of, like, I have my son, I have my businesses that were growing. So if I'm stopping what I'm doing to help somebody out of a very, very serious, severe situation, a special situation, I need to be compensated for it. Like when you break your leg, right? You go to the hospital, they send you a $20,000, $30,000 bill for fixing your leg. What we're doing is no different than that. And if anything, like physical pain comes and goes, like this mental pain, pressure, and distress, like that lingers on and like most likely never goes away. I can't imagine what it would feel like for to be foreclosed on, with a wife and kids in the house. Like that's something that I don't think you ever forgive yourself over. So throwing that out there. Does anybody have any questions or thoughts or concerns or ideas?
So do we have certain lenders already that are working
Oh yeah.
on these
Oh yeah.
for owner occupied residential?
Not owner occupied. I'm not doing
That's what I
any owner
figured.
occupied. Look, so like if it's in someone's back, like let's say it's New York City and somebody has, a $15 million condo and they're in foreclosure for $3 or $4 million, can I find someone to take a shot on it? Yeah, it's New York City and they'll do that all day long. You know, we have one group that will lend in New York and New Jersey up to a 50 LTV, and their cost of capital is 12%, 2 points with a 1 year minimum interest. And like there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it, right? So when you back that out, 12 and 2 is 14 off of 50 LTV. That means that they'll have maximum net exposure of 36%, right?
Hmm.
So can we get those done? Absolutely. But that's where it's like, hey, I have one outlet for this. It's going to be expensive. Here's your
Yeah.
option. If you want it, send a deposit. We'll work on it. You have to pay for an appraisal. If everything comes back valid, we can execute, right? But we don't want to keep taking exposure and risk like that in a market where, look, if someone's in foreclosure, unless they're like, hey, I'm only staying here for a year, my kid's in the last year of school, or, we're going through a divorce, different story. We don't want to get into the habit of like, that whole RESPA and consumer
Yeah.
CFPB
And
nonsense
it's never
because,
it's never the case too, man. They'll tell you whatever you want to hear at that
correct.
time just to give them that bailout situation. And they know
That's
worst
right.
case scenario, they'll talk to some BS attorney saying you agreed to these terms. This is
Yeah.
ridiculous. All of a sudden now you find yourself in a lawsuit and you look like an asshole for bringing your lender into that situation. So I try to stay away from that.
Oh yeah, that makes a lot of sense because we all know how people can get.
Yeah, and listen, at the end of the day, with the products in the market, like, hey, I'm sure you have somebody that has a couple $100,000 and has decent credit. Like, sell them your house for whatever if you're married, obviously sell for $500,000 more than what you bought it for, so you don't have any tax liabilities. And, let them buy it as an investment property, put 20, 25% down, qualify, and pay them rent. And that rent or pay the mortgage every month, right? Like, we don't care, but why would we take on that liability to make a couple $1,000s where the last thing we want to be is on the front page of the newspaper of like we foreclosed on, this primary.
Yeah, yeah, we don't want that.
So yeah, that's just a little bit about like what we try and avoid. And again, there's so much good business out there, doable business out there. Like let's focus on that when these do come about. You should be using these as a way to be an expert in your marketplace. And you should use it as a way to be a knowledgeable expert on your digital marketplace. I guarantee, like, if you guys just post, like, hey, if anybody knows anybody in foreclosure behind on their mortgage, reach out. I would guarantee each one of you gets a call today on that. Like, that's how severely delinquent a lot of these loans are in every market. So, while everyone's trying to focus on loans that don't exist, focus on the loans of like solving problems and helping people at the same time.
Thanks.
You're welcome, guys. So that's what I got. That's all we got for today. Obviously my phone's on for you. I hope you guys are all well and hopefully kicking butt. Hope you guys all have a happy Passover, safe Easter, happy Easter, and we'll be in touch next week, next Wednesday.
Thanks, Jeff.
Appreciate it.
Thanks,
Thanks,
Jeff.
Jeff. Everybody.
Good stuff.